All right, people, we are live. Another episode, another week, another episode of Talkin Lost. Going live on Monday morning this week. House of the Rising Sun. This is a big episode. This is a very, very important episode. We get Jin and Sun's backstories, but also in addition to getting some awesome backstories for some really interesting and different characters, we also get, I would say, a pretty good episode, pretty important episode. Also, just as far as the survival logistics of the island. You know, I feel like we spent so much time getting to know these characters the last couple of weeks. You know, we had two back-to-back pretty existential episodes with Locke and Jack's respective origin that now we kind of, it's weird how, like, you'll get some episodes where the backstory is more interesting than what's actually happening on the island, and then you'll have other episodes where they're kind of equal importance. So it's kind of nice that we have one that's where both plot lines are kind of equally important.
Yeah, Dom, you keep saying that these are important episodes. I'm just wondering, like, okay, at some point they're going to feel important. Right now, it's just like
just establishing the lore is what we're doing. This is the establishing the lore season if we're going by video game accounts. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So all of that and more on today's episode of Talkin Lost. All right, people. House of the Rising Sun, Season 1, Episode 6, I believe this is, because it always screws me up the order because of the two-part pilot. But we get Sun and Jin's backstory this episode. So, Luke, after 4 or 5 episodes of having this mysterious couple where, Koreans, where the husband seems to be very, very much about just protecting his wife, and they seem to be non-comprehensible, there may have been some hints over the last couple episodes as to whether or not you could understand them. Not only do you get a backstory on them, but you get, once again, like we do with so many flashbacks with characters on this show, we get something that we were definitely not expecting. So, like, did you have any expectations going into it before we actually discovered Sun and Jin's origin?
I think you mentioned in the previous episode that it will be real that they do speak English, so I was kind of waiting for that. I don't know if which one is Jin? Which one is Sun? I'm sorry.
Jin's the husband, Sun is the wife.
Okay. I don't know. Jin speaks English? Does he? Okay.
Jin does not speak English yet.
Okay. But Sun does, so I was waiting for that reveal. And just to know what their deal is, it's just nice to get some answers. For once, I'm left with more answers than questions. So it's a nice change of pace for a Lost episode.
Yes, indeed. We do get some answers. We also get on the island plot itself. We get some pretty interesting backstory mythos where, again, I know I've been talking about this a lot over the last couple of episodes, but every episode is going to be important. And in this episode in particular, once we get into the caves, the reason why is because, again, I forgot that this was set up all the way in this season, something that isn't paid off all the way until the last season. Like, that's how much they were, like, laying the seeds right here, even if they themselves didn't realize how they were going to pay it off. Where the primary bulk of this episode concerns the conflict within the survivors as to whether or not they're going to remain on the beach in order to continue the signal fire, or if they're going to move inward closer to the source of water that Jack discovered in the last episode. And that's kind of causes the first of several rifts and divides that happen on the island. But the main conflict that we have going on is, randomly out of nowhere at the beginning of the episode, Jin just goes over and starts beating the ever-living shit out of Michael and almost drowns him, to the point where Saeed and Sawyer have to get involved and separate the two of them. And there's no reason why. There's no rhyme or reason why, at least that we know of. And again, it creates kind of this untenable conflict while Jack, Kate, Locke, and Charlie are heading inland in order to get more water, which also causes the start of the conflict there. So obviously, we get kind of into the sense of, like, okay, well, obviously, why is this happening? And at first we assumed that, okay, it's like Jin is naturally jealous because of the language barrier. He sees Sun, communicating with other people other than him, kind of, he's a little bit possessive. And then we get into the backstory where we kind of discover why that is. I mean, first and foremost, like, what did you think of the of kind of Sun and Jin's respective backstory as far as why that tied to Jin's character motivations in this episode?
I think it just made the previous episodes more clear, like how he is super protective of her. Like, hey, you stick by me, only stay by me. Like, that he works for her father or something. I think
Yes.
I watched on Saturday, so it's not 100% in my brain. But yeah, just it clears up that part of it. And I'm just wondering what now that they're on this island, how is that gonna change their relationship and their relationships with the various other survivors? And of course, he does attack Michael. Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was quite something. So I was
Yeah.
like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I know
Yeah.
he talked to your wife for a bit, but surely that doesn't warrant it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like a little bit aggressive, a little bit over the top, just about, you know. And you're right as far as kind of the intro. Like what's so interesting too is the fact that with all these flashbacks that we've gotten, you know, Kate, Locke, Jack, now Sun and Jin, and as we're gonna continue, what's so fascinating is the flashbacks are even told only to us in bits and pieces, where we're going to be getting more flashbacks with all of these characters. You know, there's only a few characters that get like one-off backstories, and for the most part they all again like just add more context and more myth and lore to these characters, if you will. And what's so interesting is even though, again, we get the basic backstory here, we still don't necessarily know a lot of the intricacies and the details because obviously we get more backstory with them as time goes on. But for right now, the biggest thing that we're told is that, you know, the dynamics are totally different, you know, and explained as to why Jin feels this way. You know, Jin works for Sun's father, but he very, very much adores her. There's clearly a class divide here going on. Jin probably, again, comes from more of a working class background versus Sun's father. Although we don't know what he does for his money. Sun's father is clearly very, very wealthy and well off, you know, just given, you know, kind of their living situation that we see once we see their backstory. But the other big thing that's revealed is that after Sun discovers the extent as to how Jin is working for her father, clearly something crime related, as we see him come home with blood on his face and hands one night. Yeah, she's making plans to leave him. You know, she's got a getaway set up with a driver and everything. She's like, oh, you know, the driver's giving her a fake passport, a new ID. She's like, make an excuse to get away from him at the airport. You're going to be gone for a while. They're going to assume that you were kidnapped. And after a while, they're going to assume you're dead. And then you'll be able to kind of go where you want. And obviously, clearly, this is something that she's never done because in the brief bits of backstory that we do get, we clearly are established that Sun is a character that is being used to being taken care of her entire life. First from her father and now from her husband. And that's also clearly something that Jin is struggling with as well. Where Jin is struggling to kind of measure up to the life that has already been set for her because he clearly doesn't see himself as worthy of her, which is, again, part of the reason why he reacts the way that he does, both to the rest of the survivors on the island and also to Michael in this episode. Not only that, but that also continues to give Michael some really great motivation as well. It's so funny to me still, once again, I know I'm going to say this every episode, how certain characters seem to be getting so much focus in this first season, you know, namely Boone, Shannon, and Michael, and how they end up kind of, you know, taking a step back as time goes on in the show. I was reading a Variety top 10 for Lost since last weekend was officially the 20-year anniversary since the show dropped. And the biggest thing that I saw was that this is in this episode, 2 episodes ago, Walkabout, and then 2 other episodes that will come later on in the run in season 1, Numbers, which is a Hurley-focused episode, and Do No Harm, which is a Boone-focused episode, eventually make the top 10. And after watching this episode, I could definitely see why, because again, to me, this is Lost when it's at its peak. It's character focused. It's giving us a backstory, but not giving us everything. It's giving us enough in order to kind of show the characters' motivations on the island while not telling us everything that there is, while also demonstrating a kind of a plot that actually moves the story forward on the island itself.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still early doors, so I'm only getting introduced to these characters. I'm going to get to know them over the next 6 seasons. But laying the foundations is super important. It's like just to take something like Game of Thrones, like that first season did so much establishing work that the rest of it was just an easy breeze to continue developing those characters. So I think it's going to be something of that similarity here.
Yeah, I agree. Could not agree more. And especially given that, you know, the actual island plot itself and how we're still kind of focusing in on all the characters. Michael probably gives my favorite performance, aside from, obviously, the Sun and Jin focus. just for his like not only his reaction to when Sun finally talks to him at the end, as speaking English, but also like his reaction to Jin and what that causes, which is just hilarious, but also like completely justified. You know, the moments with him and Walt, but also we get some really good moments between, once again, you know, Jack and Locke kind of continuing their bit from last episode. Also, we get these episodes of Locke and Charlie in this episode too, where you know, Locke is starting to, you know, again, in continuing like the mystery of Locke, if you will, kind of his connection with the island, how he seems to like have this sixth sense as far as whether things are going to happen with, and he starts to kind of use that with Charlie, both with the guitar thing, but then also how he's going to motivate Charlie to eventually start to, you know, go through his withdrawal journey, because he's quickly able to figure out that Charlie is maybe a little bit obsessed with going through the wreckage for different reasons than people may have thought.
I'm enjoying Locke a lot with
Yeah.
each and every episode since Walkabout, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of him.
Yeah, there's a reason why he's one of the most crucially important characters going forward. And again, his mysterious connection with the island. Your thoughts? More Jack and Kate meet cutes. Ultimately, what did you think of the bodies that they found? I want to know if you have any theories as to what those could be.
I think it's them or someone of the island.
Okay, so you're
like,
still thinking. So you're still of the
Yeah.
opinion that it's like, okay, they're ghosts. This is purgatory. You're still on that track.
No, I think it's more like a time travel-y type thing, but
right,
we'll
all right.
see.
We'll see.
I'll keep that in the back pocket. But I think
Put it in the back pocket. Keep it in the back burner.
I think that's gonna be the slow burn of slow burns between
indeed.
those two.
Yes, indeed.
But I'm familiar to many a slow burn through my TV watching, so I'm ready to wait it out between those two.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we got the discovery of the bodies in the cave. We got the black and white pearls. Obviously, those are going to come into those are actually, I don't remember now if those are actually important or if those are just like kind of a red herring and like, oh, those aren't as important. Like I said, right now we're just laying the seeds ultimately. What do you think of the divide so far between the characters, as far as, you know, certain ones who want to remain closer to water and are kind of seemingly ready to hunker in and potentially be on this island for longer than they expect, versus the ones that are still kind of clinging to the idea that they may be rescued? That classic survivalist struggle of, okay, are we going to get right? Do we still pretend like we're going to get rescued, or do we hunker down for survival for whatever our new life is going to be? I actually am interested in your thoughts as far as what side of what side of the coin you'd fall on there if you ever ended up in a situation like that.
I think one scene that caught my eye is the one between Sawyer and Kate, where he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna do what you do," basically. So she's inadvertently being also pushed towards this leader role. If I'm again using another lost knockoff, the 100, she's kind of like the Clark of the group, and Jack is the Bellamy. When you watch that show, you'll get it. But I would probably go towards the water and the shelter. Like I'm not sure how. I'm quite a realist slash pessimist, so I wouldn't be sticking it out on the beach. I get sunburned very easily, so I would also be heading towards the shade. So
yeah, that's the other thing too. They had Jin handcuffed to that plane wreckage too. So who knows how long he was out there cooking in the sun for? He's gonna have some pretty bad sunburn there. Yeah, but you're right. It is kind of interesting still. You know, the emphasis and focus on whether they're going to be rescued or whether or not they should simply move in towards the cave, towards survival. Especially since we're going to see how that affects them as they continue to go forward. And just as far as like the cave and the focus, God, it's so frustrating because obviously I know what the bodies are after having seen the whole show, but I can't tell you it because I don't want you to be spoiled. But it's such a long wait before we actually get there, so it is still interesting to me kind of how they're still in like survivalist mode before they like get into like the mystery of the island. You know, right now it seems to be that like, okay, the mystery of the island is not nearly as important to us as just continuing to basic survival. And you see obviously the group that goes with them, you know, to the caves. Hurley goes with them to the caves. Jin and Sun choose to go with them to the caves, whereas I believe everybody else, Saeed, Kate, Sawyer, Boone, Shannon, Michael, and Walt all end up staying on the beach. You get some more connective bit between Michael and his son, where it's again clearly more the divide there, in that I believe that they established that this is really the first time that Michael's gotten to meet his son in his entire life, so they're just getting to know each other. And Walt tries to throw it at Michael, and he's like, "When's my birthday?" And Michael's like, "August 24th." And he's like, "When's my birthday?" He's like, "Yeah, that's right. That's what I thought." So then the big reveal comes, where his son, after failing to attempt to convince Jin, goes up to Michael and is like, "It's all about the watch that you're wearing." And he's like, "Wait, what?" That's what this is all about. A stupid watch. And I did find that funny how the theme of this episode seemed to be like material possessions and holding on to items of your past versus, moving on to kind of like the new future and the new focus, in the sense of where this item was obviously something of great importance to Jin because it symbolizes essentially what he believes is his entire marriage, this sense of honor, in terms of the passing down from Jin's father to him, son's father to him. So it's a matter of honor, and the fact that he thinks that Michael stole it, when in reality, Michael just found it on the beach and didn't know whose it was and took it, as he explains to Jin very heatedly afterwards. He's like, I found it on the beach, and who wouldn't want to take like a $20,000 watch, for himself?
That's exactly what I would do. Hey,
Yeah.
this is a cool watch. I don't think anyone needs it currently, so
Nobody says anything about it. So, oh no, here comes this one dude to attack me. That's not gonna go well. Why would I know what it's for? Who knows?
Just these little character tidbits of Michael. Just that maybe a bit of a comic character type
Yes.
thing, but I think you need those in an ensemble like this.
Yes. Yes, indeed, you do. It's one of those things where it is like comedic, but it's got like good. It has like enough good motivation that like you legitimately do feel threatened. And I like how he's like so angry that he just chops the handcuffs as well. So really, the only other thing left to discuss is Jack and Kate and Kate's decision as far as choosing to stay on the beach versus go with them to the caves. And then she kind of throws back. He's like, Jack's kind of like trying to dig deeper, and Kate's continuing to put up the shields. He's like, you had your chance to ask, and now now the chances kind of miss you. So why do you think Kate decided to stay on the beach as opposed to going with them?
Mm, I forget exactly what happened in that scene, but maybe it's like a, I don't know, maybe it's like a, I don't want to be a follower type thing. I want to just make my own decisions for now. But I don't know. I don't have much to make on that.
I
at
guess
the
it is
moment.
kind of funny how I believe that this is not only the first time, I think this is the second time where she's chosen to follow Sawyer kind of in Sawyer's lead over Jack, because it feels like as problematic as Sawyer is, Sawyer still has that kind of independent streak that Jack does not necessarily, that even though, because Jack is still kind of the reluctant leader force, she still is kind of in the position of where she doesn't necessarily want to tie herself down to one thing. So she's kind of like, the way that I see it is she's kind of seeing herself as like the envoy between, both parties, kind of the peacekeeper, if you will, kind of the island unto herself, if you will. So that's kind of my stance on it. So House of the Rising Sun, really, really good episode. Like, I enjoyed this one a lot. I'm probably going to be coming back to this one quite a lot as we continue to go into our Lost journey. Like I said, next week is the Moth, where we get into Charlie, and we're going to start getting into some of the other characters' backstories as well. I believe it's Charlie, it's Claire, it's Sawyer, and it's Saeed are some of the next ones that we're going to get backstories for. And I think it's like reset the loop, and then we'll get Michael and Boone before the end of the season, and I believe that that's going to be it as far as backstories before we kind of reset with some of the other characters and we get to the finale. Now, before we got out of here, I wanted to talk to you about one brief thing, a movie, if you will.
I'd rather not.
I know you wouldn't, but
I guess we have to.
But I need. Well, no, we don't have to. But I need to have the conversation with you, just as far as I think the big thing that everybody is going to the problem, if you will, that everybody is going to have after coming out of Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis is they're going to misunderstand just kind of the motivation for the movie. And I will say, it's not a perfect movie. I have my problems with it, for sure. I think this is one of the few movies that actually deserved a longer runtime, which is insane to say because every movie is too long now. But this is one where I was like, yeah, I see the vision. I do. It's a little warped. It's a little bit confusing. There's a lot of nonsense here. Like, there's a lot of nonsense going on here. And yet, I kind of enjoyed it. I don't necessarily know if I enjoyed it for the right reasons, but
I don't think anyone has enjoyed it for the right reasons, is what I'm hearing.
Let me put it this way. There's nothing else that's come out this year that's like it. And I know that, again, that's not a necessarily a good justification, but in the year of our Lord 2024, where everything sucks now, I don't know. I feel like the big gonzo crazy movies, it's like they have a place here, as incomprehensible as they are, I may be giving it a little bit too much leeway, but simply for the fact that, again, self-financed, there's no kind of like Hollywood oversight. This was entirely on Coppola to fail. And again, there's something about it that I just enjoyed. I'm still kind of trying to figure out what that is, but there was something that I did enjoy.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I did not enjoy one bit of it. I'm very happy to misunderstand it if that's what it takes. I definitely did not enjoy it. I think this is what it looks like. What the Twitter thinks the MCU looks like. I thought about like 5 different Letterboxd reviews while just sitting there, uh, and I've never stood up and left the theater faster in my life.
That's
Like
fine.
I fell asleep a few times. I was pretty tired, but the movie didn't help either.
Yeah.
I thought about leaving, but I thought I've never left the movie. I'm not gonna break my streak now. I thought I should be watching Transformers again instead. Uh, but yeah, I'm not surprised that he had to self finance this. Let's just
Well, yeah,
say that.
no studio was going to take a risk on this. Absolutely not. Not the way that he wanted to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah, no studio in
I'm
2020.
I'm glad it has its
Well, because when
not
did he start
defenders
filming
but
this?
enthusiasts, I
Well,
guess.
because when
But
did he start filming this? 2022. So yeah, in 2022, no studio was going to self-finance a $120 million epic like fable. You know that like no studio was going to finance that. Like there were multiple producers and agents that were coming forward saying, yeah, no, nobody in their right mind would have financed this. But still, the fact that he financed it, the fact that it exists, you know. And I thought there was one particularly entertaining moment where the first scene where Natalie Emmanuel is trying to talk to Adam Driver, and Adam Driver's like basically making fun of her for just like being bored with her current like club lifestyle, and he's just like, "So go back to the club." And the way that he
yeah,
said that
that's
just
been
killed
making
me.
the rounds on
Yeah,
Twitter.
it's
It's
incredible. It's
wonderful.
incredible. There's no other movie like this, and I think that this movie is not only going to have a very long shelf life, but I think it's going to age amazingly well over the years. That's all I'm going to say.
I think the closest thing to it is Tommy Wiseau's The Room.
That's what I was
Like,
thinking as well. That's what I was thinking as well. But I was also very much reminded of what Lucas did when Lucas released The Phantom Menace. I was very, very much reminded of that and people's immediate reaction to that. And look at how well, not necessarily The Phantom Menace, but the prequel trilogy as a whole has aged.
well, I can safely say I will not be one of those people. But
Only time will
I'm
tell.
glad it has its fans somewhere.
Yeah. Only time will tell, is that's all I'm going to say. And now he's been motivated so much, he's like, yeah, I think I'm going to try and make more movies. And I'm like, with what money? You invested it all in this.
He's gonna sell the other vineyard that
Yeah,
I'm sure he has.
he's just gonna sell all the vineyards and go back to making movies full time and just burn money. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Uh,
You do
at least Joker's this week. That'll be fun. At the
Yeah,
very
Joker,
least.
and then I'm also gonna get to see Saturday Night early as well. So that'll be.
No, I don't think we're getting that. It
Yeah.
hasn't popped up anywhere.
Yep, and then have you seen Different Man yet, or because I know A24 movies usually take a long time to get to you guys.
Yeah, that is not coming here.
Yeah,
We
that
get
was
a
good
very
one.
odd A24 movie once a year, maybe. But
Yeah, like did you guys get like I'm interested like what A24 movie did you guys get this year, if any?
uh, I'm just off the top of my head. We got Bodies, Bodies, Bodies 1 year.
Okay, that was 2
That
years
was
ago.
yeah. I'm just pulling up my A24 list real quick on Letterboxd.
Yeah, 'cause I'm
We
interested
got
to
we
see
got
if
we got
what.
Midsummer the year that was. We got a
Okay.
very limited Lighthouse run.
Okay.
We got Past Lives last year.
Okay.
Everything, Everywhere.
All at once. So you got
I
two
think
in
af-
2022.
yeah, I think we got After Sun. But I
Okay.
think that was after the Oscars or something.
Yeah, that makes
We got
sense.
Civil War, but everyone got Civil War.
Yeah, everybody got
So,
Civil War.
I haven't seen any others this year from A24. Then
Wow. What about, oh man, I can only imagine about what like
I
the
have to
big
check
ones
what they
during
released this
during
year.
the heyday. Like if you guys got Moonlight, if you guys got Uncut Gems, if you guys got
Well,
The
I was
Witch.
like 12 when Moonlight came out.
I
Or
know, but
or
still.
14. I was not watching
I know.
A24
But
movies
still,
at 14.
I know. So, but it's gonna be interesting to see which ones you guys get going forward, especially after the festival pickups. Because A24 got both Queer and The Brutalist coming out of Toronto.
Okay, we are definitely
so.
not getting The Brutalist. I can tell you that much.
Yeah.
Y2K, I feel like we might get.
Y2K, you could. Y2K could be mainstream enough that you could get it.
Queer, I doubt it. That doesn't seem to be big. I don't think it has a release. Or
Yeah.
Heretic, we're getting.
Heretic.
We
Okay.
live in time. We're getting.
Okay.
Maxine, we got. I didn't see it. Love Lies Bleeding. We're only now getting.
You're only now getting
yeah,
months after it came out.
yeah. So that's for this year.
That is interesting to say the least. Yeah. So just so you know, also for the viewing audience as well, I have a top 10 as well for the year. It's a rough one, but I'm pretty confident in it. I'm mostly because these are all movies that I, for the most part, enjoyed. I'll be interested to see what movies from the last 3 months of the year take their spots, if any. But right now, my top 10 is number 10 is Megalopolis. Yes, that's right. I put it in my top 10. I'm going to be that guy. I don't care. Number 9, Sing Sing. Number 8, Alien Romulus. 7, Deadpool and Wolverine. 6, Furiosa. 5, Transformers 1. 4, Trapped. 3, The Fall Guy. 2, The Substance. And 1, Dune Part 2. So that's a top 10 list that I'm pretty confident in overall. Luke, do you have any top 10s that any preliminary top 10s
I
you
can
wanna go
run
through?
mine for what it is right now.
Just for preliminary, because it's end of September, beginning of
Yeah.
October.
I'm gonna be
we're
doing
about to get
some
fully into
some
Oscar season.
rewatches. I'm sure. Ever 10, I have Hitman. It would be higher if not for the ending.
Yeah, the ending
which
really
we
ruins it.
discussed. 9, I have Flow. A bit of bias there, but whatever.
Understandably so.
I have Inside Out 2. I have Alien Romulus. I have Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I should probably rewatch that. It'll probably drop a bit. That's okay. At 5, I have Transformers 1, The Fall Guy, Furiosa, Twisters, and of course, Dune
2.
Part 2.
Yeah, so I don't know if you guys are getting The Substance, but if you can get your hands on
We
a
are
copy-
getting The Substance.
Oh,
at
you need
at
to
least
watch The
at least
Substance.
one screening.
I don't know. Here's the thing, because I don't know your thoughts on sci-fi body horror for the most part, but if you
Well, The Thing is like my favorite horror movie.
this is the
And The
closest
Fly
thing.
is too.
This is the closest movie I've seen stylistically, not necessarily substance-wise, pun intended, but stylistically to The Thing that I've seen like ever. That's all I'm gonna say, and it is kind of insane how hard this movie goes. And yeah, I'll be very, very interested. And yeah, for some strange reason, I don't know why, but I have a feeling this is going to be my top 10 for once we get to the end of the year. I'll be interested. There's a few obviously that I'm looking forward to. Gladiator 2, I've heard good things about. I'm looking forward obviously to the A24 movies that we still have yet to come out for the year. Y2K looks very fun and entertaining, and of course the big one being Nosferatu. But I'm going to be very, very interested. And I still have to watch Wild Robot. I'll admit I did miss Wild Robot this weekend, but I've heard very, very good things about that. But I'm going to be very interested to see how many changes actually come to my top 10, because so far I'm pretty confident with the choices that I have. So we shall see. Like I said, it's officially Oscar time. I'm going to start somewhat of an Oscar watch over the next couple of weeks as far as movies that we think are going to be Oscar bait. Joker next weekend is going to be a very interesting one, considering the fact that it's been getting really bad reviews, like really, really bad reviews. Good Lord. So
I've heard that the ending is quite like ridiculous,
shocking. So from what I've heard,
I don't know what it is, but
from
it's
what
gonna be
I've
something.
heard, and I've heard about rumors, it's that Todd Phillips is like, yeah, I don't know if I want to make another Joker movie after this. So that's what I've heard.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I should be seeing it Thursday, so
yes. So with that being said, people, that is it. That is our recap of this week's episode of Talkin' Lost. A full month. We've been doing this for a full month that we've been doing this. So, Luke, thanks once again for sticking with me through this journey as we continue all the way through up until January when we finish season 1. So, with that being said, where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
You follow me at Luke Reviews on Instagram and YouTube. There are also links to my Letterboxd in those places, which is a barren wasteland with school starting up again. But yeah, mostly on here every week, and it's a great time every time.
Indeed. Of course, you guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin' TV Podcast across all platforms. This episode is available on YouTube and Twitch. This episode will be available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts later today. And as always, people, 12 seasons in a short film, and watch more fucking movies. But in this case, more Lost. We'll see you guys next week.